Hey friends, my name is Skylent, and today I'm going to give you my personal pick, my top 10 upcoming Sandbox MMOs. Now, there's a lot of Sandbox games out there, and there's many Sandbox Online games out there, but I really am stressing the MMO portion of this list. I'm really focusing on those games that are extremely social and very much are kind of undebatably considered MMO. Okay, but I'm under the assumption that many of you want to know what the upcoming Sandbox MMOs are, which ones are good, so I picked 10 of them that I think have the best chance in their respective subgenres to succeed. And yeah, because of the nature of the categorization of this list, 1 through 10 doesn't really matter. There's really no order to the games. They're all unique and different. They all represent a unique genre under the umbrella of Sandbox MMO. So as long as you want that freedom of a sandbox, then look at this list and see the different structures that each of these games have uniquely to them. Pick a game and get hype. Let's start the list. Okay friends, the first game I want to talk about is a game called Pearia Chronicles, and I want to mention this game first because it's like the shadiest game that I can talk about on the list, really. Most of these games, honestly, are very far in the future. True, yeah, so we don't really know how they're going to turn out, but Pearia Chronicles being an Eastern game and being so far away from being launched, and will it even actually ever launch is still kind of debatable. I mean, apparently it is coming out, it's just like we aren't getting much information. But Pearia Chronicles is supposed to be a game with like Pokemon-esque style combat, like you can capture creatures and use them in battle, and it's supposed to have like dynamic city building and evolution, and you're supposed to have crazy like mechanics where you can actually program different sort of machines and maybe quest lines, and it's supposed to have like a lot of really crazy ambitious stuff with the anime mixing and styling, but how much of that we're gonna get, I still don't know, but hey, keep the hype alive, right? Next up, I want to talk about a game that is extremely close to my heart. I've played in almost every one of its alphas. I've done a couple of videos on it. I really just genuinely love this game. It's a game called SkySaga, and SkySaga is essentially like an online action RPG version of Minecraft. It's a bit more linear in ways, and in others, it's way more social, way more MMO-esque. And I like the whole floating island aesthetic. I love going to these different instances, these different worlds, and jumping in and out of these worlds with the other players. And it is definitely a sandbox game. There's a lot of customization, a lot of creativity, there's a lot to do, but at the same time, it's still the most instance game on this list. Everything is compartmentalized, and it feels small in some aspects and big in others. But overall, I think it's a really unique take on the sandbox MMO genre. It's really like a bunch of little sandboxes that are all interconnected. Trust me, guys, it's not just like a Minecraft clone. There's way more to it. Check it out. Okay friends, let's talk about Gloria Victis. Now, Gloria Victis is going to be a free-to-play game, and if it ever switches from being a free-to-play game, then I will stop including it in my top 10 lists, because there are many other non-free-to-play games that will then compete with it, and, you know, then it's just a free-for-all at that point. They're all generally like a similar quality. Now, I've mentioned Gloria Victis many times before, but for those who have not heard, Gloria Victis is essentially a low-ish fantasy, medieval, open-world PvP sandbox MMO. It's lowish fantasy because I think I saw in a trailer an ogre, so yeah, but for the most part, you're not gonna be just wielding giant glowing maces and shooting fireballs, at least not at the beginning that I know of. It's very simple, and that's a good thing. Normally, sandbox games get a little bit too ambitious at the beginning, so archery, sword fights, first-person combat. It's really, at this moment, trying to nail down that feel, that visceral and impactful feel of PvP. So already in early access, it's pretty good, but seeing where it's come from and where it's going leaves me super excited. Okay, let's talk about Chronicles of Elyria, or Alaria, whatever. Anyways, Chronicles of Alaria is a pretty hot topic right now. It's got a lot of features that are just kind of mind-bogglingly crazy epic. So basically, it's like you have a life and your character kind of ages, and it's essentially like the feudal ages the MMO. So you do have this sort of caste-ish system. You have the class system where, you know, people have different ranks, monetary values, and there's like this morality system where, yeah, it's open world PvP and everything, but there's a law to the land. So there's definitely impact, risk, and reward with everything that you do. Kind of similar in vein to, you know, the genre of Gloria Victis, but just taken to a more intricate level with its social economics and RPG aspects with the character progression. Next up, we have a game called Dark and Light. And I know this is an upcoming game list, but Dark and Light actually did exist at one time. It's just the new Dark and Light that's coming out is kind of the same Dark and Light, it's just completely different. Okay, to explain, basically Dark and Light came out in 2006. It was essentially garbage. There were some lofty ambitions that couldn't be met. In the end, it just didn't work out. So Snail Games ended up getting the rights to Dark and Light and started reworking the game entirely from the ground up. So now it is re-releasing an essentially an entirely new game with some new mechanics. I think the core concepts are still there, but yeah, whole new game, guys. So it's gonna be a sandbox MMO, obviously, that features magic and dragons and kind of like this weird concept of aliens and magic, maybe sci-fi, as well as fantasy mixing aesthetics. It's running in the Unreal Engine 4, so it's looking pretty gorgeous. A lot of the creatures and a lot of just the trailer kind of reminds me of Ark, so I wonder if we're gonna get a lot of nature-based gameplay with a lot of really big monsters. Pretty much, we don't know too much about the game other than it used to suck, and now it's being completely reworked, and it probably won't at least suck. So yeah, get hyped, guys. And I think it's about time I mentioned Albion Online. I think I put it in pretty much every top 10 list that I possibly can. Yeah, so halfway on the list, let's talk about Albion Online. This is a game that I really like. I've played it a lot. You can actually play this on mobile devices at the same time as on your desktop, so they get that really cool cross-platform play. It's going to be a $30 game, I believe, at release, whenever it finally does release. It's constantly in closed betas, but that's kind of a good and bad thing. See, for those of you who maybe weren't interested in the game yet, just know that a lot is changing in the game. Yeah, it's a full loot, hardcore PvP game, but they're making it a little bit better for PvE, a little bit more PvE focus, some raid encounters, making dungeons a little bit more exciting and the questing more interesting and dynamic. PvP is also getting a structured arena, so it's not all about the player killers in the wilderness. Yeah, there's definitely some pros and cons to a lot of these changes, but in the end, I think Albion Online is going to be the best of all worlds, at least when it comes to merging some really cool theme park elements and putting it in a sandbox and making it cross-platform. Okay, now a lot of people like to play sandbox games for the player versus player interaction. Now, a lot of games have this sort of Camelot style realm versus realm versus realm thing going on, kind of tacked on, or just as a portion of their game. Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls Online as an example. Now, PlanetSide 2 has done it appropriately, full-on MMO FPS type of stuff. If you want that, but set into a medieval universe, and it being the literal sequel to the game that started the entire genre, yeah, Camelot Unchained is going to be that game. Full PvP focus. Big open world to do said PvP. It's a really simple concept that needs a perfect execution. Taking a little bit developing this game, but I think that's them perfecting the execution there, you know what I mean? So honestly, they can take all the time they want. I'll still be excited for Camelot. Okay, here's the guaranteed pick that was definitely going to get on the top 10 list. You knew it, so we're not going to go over what Star Citizen is because you know it. You know Star Citizen. You've seen it on other top 10s. You've seen the game. You know that it is the most grand concept of an MMO or a video game ever. It is the sandbox of all sandbox, the sandbox of the stars. It is Star Citizen, and I don't think any game is really going to compete with it in its genre. The only thing that came close potentially was No Man's Sky. Yeah, no, not at all. Anyway, Star Citizen actually, in its development, is showing you step by step what is happening. It is updating us, the players, the future players of this game, exactly as everything gets updated in the game. They are extremely transparent with its progress. It's slow, but I think surely this game is going to develop into the biggest sandbox that we could ever possibly imagine. Hey, but it's not the size, it's what you do with it, right? So here's Worlds Adrift. Yes, another potentially infinite game, but that's set in the atmosphere. It's set in the airspace with clouds and the sky and the blue. And I don't really know exactly how the game is going to turn out. I've really only played the island creator, but even in just the island creator, that was actually a lot of fun. I got to play around with a little bit of physics. The grappling hook and stuff was pretty cool. But Worlds Adrift apparently is going to be a game where there's like floating islands, and yes, you can make your own islands, and you make these like different airships, and you travel to these different islands, and I don't know what the combat's gonna be like. I don't know what the true gameplay is going to be like, but just seeing the creative output, the creative potential of this game, already that alone is just really good enough for me to get on this list. It can only get better from here. Now, saving it for last, let's talk about Crowfall. I saved it for last because I think it's probably my personal favorite aesthetic. Like, I just like the whole medieval thing. I like the MOBA inspiration. I like the Game of Thrones inspiration with its campaigns. And I just like a lot of the concepts. I think it's doing a lot of really new and weird things that I really just want to try for myself. And in saying that, I think that this game has a lot of room for error, which is probably why it's taken so long to develop. Many of these games do. They're just super ambitious. But that's why I'm excited for Crowfall, because it's got like voxel destruction. It's got instance, like week or month-long campaigns. So yeah, it's a sandbox game, but it's made up of lots of other sandboxes, kind of SkySaga reminiscent, except these campaigns are PvE, VP, so it's not just cooperative. There's also a little bit of competitiveness to it. Guilds fight over resources, and they bring it back to their home instance, and just all sorts of crazy MOBA inspiration, MOBA-inspired kind of combat. So yeah, PvP is definitely the focus, absolutely. The game's physics also really inspire me, because a lot of the sandbox games don't really have like appropriate physics, but I think because of the way Crowfall works, it's allowed to have that sort of explosivity, that impact, the creation and destruction. That tied in with how the classes work with each other, yeah, leaves me just absolutely 100% hyped. Thanks so much for watching. That's the end of the list, but know that there are many games out there, just a little bit more niche, and the sandbox genre tends to be just filled with a bunch of niche games. So yeah, if you have a game that you're hyped about, leave it in the comments below. And if you think a game shouldn't be on this list, yeah, whatever, argue with me in the comments below too, why not? Anyways, guys, I just want you to know that these games I'm excited for, okay? Personal list. Hope you are too. And if you want to play with me and, do streams and videos together, that's cool too. I don't mind. Let's do it. Let's have fun. Because that's what I like about this genre, is that they inherently want you to be social. That is essentially what the point of sandbox games are. There is so much freedom that really what holds the whole game together, what the glue is, are the people. Other players, enemies, friends, frenemies, through economy, through crafting, through being creative, or toxic and griefing. It's all the interactions that really make up the genre. These games offer unique ways to interact with other players. Hope you appreciate it, hope you had fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.